Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Box Office Bingers. Ernesto, and for all those who are watching on YouTube, I am bundled up right now because here in the early morning in Florida, it is cold. Very, very cold. And I think it's very fitting. And this, I guess, I don't know. This is how the life works, I guess. That is very fitting for the movie we are reviewing this week. So tell lovely listeners what we have down the pipe.
I mean, it's nothing compared to what these men and women went through. I mean, I don't even. It's like this is like tropical weather compared to them. We are reviewing a Spanish film, A Society of the Snow, written and directed by J.A. Bayona, who's responsible for The Orphanage, A Monster Calls, and Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. It's also written by Bernat Villaplana, Jamie Marquez, and Nicolas Casarego. This was a really intense movie, and I'm very interested in your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think intense is kind of undercutting it. It's a very, very. I wasn't expecting how intense this movie was going to be. It's also being highly talked about and already nominated in the Golden Globes and already nominated in the Critics' Choice. And now it's a high contender for the Oscars. It's available on Netflix. And also for the director, like I've seen A Monster Calls and I've seen Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I think it's easy to say, just going off of Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom alone, this is far out of his element.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't make movies like this. So
yeah. And
definitely
for good reason. There's definitely a lot to say about this movie.
Yes.
I'm glad that it was not Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Let's just say that.
Oh my God. I did not like that movie. I really didn't. I also didn't like Dominion. That's nothing to do with our director here, but not a good movie. Just
yeah. There's gonna be a lot to say about this movie later.
Absolutely. But before we dive into our spoiler review as well as what we've been watching, Ernesto, it's award season. It's officially here.
It's upon us.
It's upon us. We've been building up to this I mean, if you want to think about it, really, since Oppenheimer, we've been kind of there because that was like the first Barbenheimer. Our Barbie and Oppenheimer was like the first, like these two movies might be up there for like award season. And then now slowly as the fashion is and how it is for the most likely, typically around December, we start getting a lot of these movies in because that's when they come out. And it's probably for good reason, too, because they want it to be very close to the Oscar season and also the award stuff and stuff like that. But yeah, this week's news, for the most part, is all about the road to the Oscars with winners and nominations being announced for the upcoming award seasons. So let's first start with the winners of the Golden Globes. The show itself had its shocking moments, but nothing was more talked about than the terrible opening monologue from Joy. Did you happen to see any of it? Did you see the Golden Globes at all?
No, I've seen clips online of like I guess he made an offhand joke to Taylor Swift, and it's like
yeah,
I don't know.
The thing is, it's like so I missed the first 30 minutes, but I watched the Golden Globes live, and then I saw his opening monologue the next morning because that's what I missed. Because the headlines were all about how bad it was. Like at one point, he was berating the crowd because he's like, was that a boo? He's like, I just got this gig like 2 days ago. Like he went off like on a mini rant about how he just got the gig 2 days ago, or like a couple days ago, and like the jokes that you're laughing at is the ones that I wrote, and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, buddy, this you are because I mean they were bad. There's no question about it. It was not good at all. And the one that's probably getting more headlines because it's Taylor Swift. It was, I think the joke was, we have more cameras. We have less camera shots on Taylor Swift than the NFL.
Yeah. What's the difference between this and the NFL or something like that?
That's right. Yes, you're right. That was it. What was the difference between the NFL? We have less camera shots on Taylor Swift. And it's literally her. At that point, they cut to her, and then she just like takes a sip like this. And that was it. That was the meme. And so then she looked like, in the meme, the better of the, like, she was not the butt of the joke in the meme. He was, of how bad that joke was. I mean, I'm not saying that it was a bad joke, but I mean, at this point, just read the room.
Doesn't seem like it was a good joke.
No, because no one laughed at it, and like it was also just tanking from the beginning. And I think, which was funny because I didn't know that they had a host until he wrapped up the Golden Globes. I don't know if the opening monologue was that bad that they just kind of sidelined him for the rest of the award show. But yeah, it was rough. If you haven't seen it, go do yourself a favor. If you want a good laugh or not, I don't know. If you want to see a train wreck, go on YouTube. It's Jerkoy's monologue from the Golden Globes. But aside from that, we have Oppenheimer. We'll first start. Well, for the 81st annual Golden Globe winners, we'll first start in the film categories, and Oppenheimer won pretty big. Oppenheimer won 5 awards. One for Best Picture Drama, Best Director for Christopher Nolan, Best Actor Drama for Cillian Murphy, Best Supporting Actor for Robbie Downey Jr., and Best Musical Score from Ludwig Göransson.
Boy.
I mean, that's my boy right there. He deserved, and honestly, all of them well deserved. Absolutely. Well deserved. There's not one category there that I don't think was deserved there. And I called it from the beginning. I feel like I need to take a clip from when we reviewed Oppenheimer, but I'm telling you, Ernesto, it's Robbie Downey Jr.'s year. That is his awards to take, and nothing's telling me otherwise. That he's gonna win every single award from every award show, including the Oscars. Yep. I'm telling you right now.
I believe it. I believe it. I think so. I mean, this is the biggest thing he's done post Iron Man. So.
Absolutely. Like, at least for the critics to actually give him any sort of praise for. But also, it's not without reason. It was a fantastic performance from Robert Downey Jr. And I feel like in some cases, excuse me, and the same for Christopher Nolan. It's like Christopher Nolan has been nominated a bunch of times, but this is now the first time he's actually winning. So I feel like very similar to Robert Downey Jr., this is like, well, I know you've done great work in the past, but now this is the project that we feel the need to recognize you for. But it feels like a legacy award as well. It's like, we're not only commending you for the work you did for this film, but we're also commending you for the work you've done in the past. And since you haven't won one before, it writes a better story than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's most definitely his year. So, I mean, we'll see on the road. We're on the road to the Oscars. So,
absolutely. Barbie took away 2 awards. Barbie won the Best Cinematic Achievement Award. I wonder why, because maybe it's the highest grossing movie of the year. Is that the merit, Ernesto? Is that the merit we're going for the highest grossing movie?
Who made the most money?
I don't know. Honestly, I was quite shocked that it went to Barbie. But after there was a few articles that I read, and then also after seeing Poor Things, I guess it makes a little bit of sense. But I think a lot of people were expecting Barbie to win Best Musical or Comedy and Taylor Swift to win Best Box Office Achievement, which does make sense. But also, if you watch Poor Things, then you understand why that one.
And you know why that one makes sense too.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, Barbie won for Best Cinematic Achievement, and Best Original Song went to Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For? It's one of the sadder songs in the end, toward the end of the movie. Poor Things won 2 awards: Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Best Actress Comedy for Emma Stone for her performance in that. Also well deserved. I think a lot of people were expecting Margot Robbie for Barbie, but again, if you've seen Poor Things,
then you understand.
then you understand. I don't know. I think Emma Stone, for what that role was and what the meaning behind that role is, that's a better win for me. That I don't know. That's just saying. It feels like a better win that way.
She's the one who really sells the story. Like if it wasn't for her performance, then that movie would be terrible. Like if Bella Baxter's character wasn't played the way Emma Stone did it, then I don't think the movie would be as successful as it was.
Yeah, and to even piggyback off of that, when you think of Barbie, right? Yes, Margot Robbie's performance is up there, but a lot more people talk about Ken with Ryan Gosling than they do Margot Robbie as Barbie. Right. So he does kind of, in a way, outshine her.
Even more so, and a lot of people talk about America Ferrera's performance and her whole monologue at the end. More people talk about her in that scene and Ryan Gosling as Ken than they even mention Margot Robbie's performance.
That's very true. And if they're not talking about performances, they're talking about something else. Probably Greta Gerwig for her script and so
production design.
Yeah, production design, even costume design. Yeah. Like, Margot Robbie is not the top of the conversation. So
not to say her performance was bad, obviously, but it's just in comparison to all these other things, and even to the things that are successful about that film as a whole.
Right, exactly. Where was I? Anatomy of the Fall also took away 2 Best Picture non-English language and surprisingly Best Screenplay. I don't think a lot of people were expecting.
It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, hey, look, I don't blame. I hear you, but I did not expect it to take away Best Screenplay. But it was also, it was very word-heavy dialogue, and that dialogue carries you through the movie, so it makes sense. But I honestly myself wasn't expecting it either. A lot of people were saying, I don't remember what else it was nominated for or what the other nominations were, but I think, if anything, they're thinking about Barbie too.
True.
The Holdovers thankfully took 2 awards as well: Best Actor Comedy for Paul Giamatti and Best Supporting Actress for Divine Joy Randolph. That's a no-brainer right there.
She was incredible. She's one of the best things.
She was incredible. Absolutely. I think Divine Joy Randolph, this is her award. I think she's going to be sweeping it as well. The Best Actor one, that's going to be the tricky one that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Who's going to win Best Actor? But I think the supporting categories, I think we're seeing it right now.
And I'm happy for Paul Giamatti because he's another one where, in the same sentiment, like his portrayal really sells that movie. Like if
absolutely,
that role wasn't played by him the way it was played, and even for his co-star, the young actor whose name escapes me right now,
Dominique Sessa.
Yeah, yes,
or Dominic Sessa.
Them individually and their chemistry together, and even them as a trio with Divine Joy Randolph, they really sell that movie.
Absolutely, like. It is their movie. It's also a great script too, just how that plays out. But they carry that movie through and through. And Paul Giamatti is and also just the turn that he takes throughout the movie. It's not justified. It's basically he is a grumpy old man with his values, and you can slowly see how one person changes his values and his perception on what he's been standing for this entire time. It's a beautiful transformation. Also well deserved. Rounding out the film categories, we have Best Actress Drama for Lily Gladstone and the Killers of the Flower Moon, and Best Animated Feature went to The Boy and the Heron. Also a surprise. I think a lot of people were expecting Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse to take that award, but I think it's between those two, really. Both of them have reasons to be winners, and it just depends on how they feel, which award show feels what way or the other. But it's between those two, and I feel like there's no other competition out there.
Yeah, I feel like I need to rewatch The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Like it is getting a lot of accolades, and I understand the significance of the story. And
Yes,
I think that's what it has to do with more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I was just briefly talking about the legacy stuff, and it sounds like that even though he's already won an Academy Award and other awards for Spirited Away, and that was now 14 years ago. So the fact that he has now come back and had made this film, again, a lot of attention, and maybe at this point this is the respect. And for some people who are submitting their nominations, maybe they're like, well, we gave it to Spider-Man a couple of years back, so maybe we'll give it to this person instead. Who knows what their thoughts are?
I hope that's not it, because that's dumb. That's dumb. Like, if whoever is the best, whoever gives the best watching experience should be the winner.
Yeah. And granted, we had talked about the story for Spider-Man and how it's not complete, but what it's done for animation, what the first movie did and what this movie is doing, it's pushing boundaries that allowed other films that are being nominated, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and even the elements of Elemental and Wish. The animation doesn't look as polished as it used to be.
True.
It's getting a little messier, and that's all thanks to Spider-Man to showcase that, hey, maybe audiences don't like this clean, kid-friendly animation. They want something a little bit different, and Into the Spider-Verse did that.
Yeah, it can be a little chaotic.
Exactly. Moving on to the television categories, I think it's time to watch Succession, because they have been sweeping. I mean, they always have been, but this year in particular, they're sweeping. Succession won for Best TV Drama, Best Actor Drama for Kieran Culkin? Kieran Culkin. Best Actress Drama, Sarah Snook, and Best Supporting Actor for Matthew McFadden. Ernesto.
Well deserved. All three of them. They were the key, and I would also say Brian Cox as well. They were absolutely fantastic. Well deserved.
The Bear in the comedy category is also sweeping for Best TV Comedy, Best Actor Comedy for Jeremy Allen White. This is his second in a row. And Best Actress Comedy, Ayo
Edebiri.
Thank you. I mean, also well deserved. It's a fantastic show. It was my best show of last year. It deserves everything for sure.
Another person who's having their moment is Jeremy Allen White.
Absolutely
coming off the Bear season 2 before the awards season, and just the success of how great the show is, then the Iron Claw releasing, and then we're going into the awards season with all that success. I mean, he's definitely having his time, and it's like the Bear is kind of riding the success. They're kind of elevating each other with his performances in both of these projects.
Absolutely. Best Supporting Actress went to Elizabeth Debicki for her performance in The Crown. I'm actually surprised in a way that The Crown
it's gotten something.
It was surprised that it got something, but also The Crown used to be a show that swept, and now that it's ending, or it has ended, I'm not sure if the final season has ended or not, but you can tell now that it's like you're not as powerful as you used to be. Now we got other shows taking The Crown.
Yeah, because it's like nobody. It's not devaluing it, but it's not at its peak moment as it was, I guess, in those prior seasons. So like these last seasons must be good, but not to the extent as it was before.
Right, and also now Succession being, from what I heard, a fantastic finale and kind of riding off of that high. So it makes sense that one's getting the accolades, but also I don't think it never not got it.
Correct. That's true. That's true.
It's been always up there. So now that since Succession's over and it's giving its flowers, now I'm more curious on what show is now going to be Succession. Like, what's the show that's going to be as good that they're going to be awarding next season? Because Succession's not going to be an option. The Crown's not going to be an option. Like, we don't even have House of Dragon. No, I take that back. House of Dragon season 2 is coming out this year. So that could be something that could overtake it, like be the next one, because it already won one. And then in the limited series category for television, Beef swept that 100%. It won for best limited series, best actor in a limited series for Stephen Young, and best actress in a limited series went to Ali Wong. I mean, we had our issues with the ending, but I mean, Stephen Young and Ali Wong's performance was definitely what carried that show through and through.
100%. I just, the only one I don't necessarily agree with is best limited series, just because, like, I don't know, the ending for me was it was not satisfying, like not even in a narratively, like it was just like, oh, okay, that's the end, all right. But you know, I guess a lot of other people really enjoyed it, so sure. But yes, I agree with you. Their performances were unmatched. They were incredible. They were the only things that were keeping me interested.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, the story was there sometimes because it did get a little bit crazy, but the ending was just really out there. And I guess it's left to be determined if this is still a limited series, because it could turn into a season 2. Just it hasn't been announced or confirmed yet. But if they do leave it with that ending, that's bold. I like it. I'll give them credit for that. And the last one, which was their second newest award at the Golden Globes, was Best Stand-Up Performance, Ricky Gervais for his comedy special, Armageddon, which I feel like was self-serving in a way, because Ricky Gervais is also known for the multiple times he's hosted the Oscars. So it's like, did you just know him and gave him the award? It's like, I don't know. Whatever.
They haven't invited him back.
They haven't.
It's like that one time that he roasted them really good. They never invited him back.
Well, he said he most likely, and I don't think he doesn't want to come back. Like, I think that's why he roasted them so hard. He's like, I'm not coming back. But yeah, I think that, I mean, I do respect this award, Best Stand-Up Performance. I think it's definitely should be there, because there's a lot of great comedians out there and doing stand-up, and that's not an easy thing to do. And also making consistent jokes for that long and be televised, and some of your best jokes. I think all that work should be recognized, and I'm glad the Golden Globes picked it up. So I think that's a good addition to the the slate of the Golden Globes that they're doing, but not Best Cinematic Achievement. I hate that.
And I just did a quick search online. So he said he'd be canceled halfway through. Ricky Gervais feels why he will never host the Oscars after. So it was. I didn't even realize. I thought it was. I guess it was the Golden Globes. He did 5 times. So how funny is that?
But yeah, I guess they liked him enough. Obviously, they gave him the first stand-up award went to him. Ironic, right? But yeah, there you go. That's all the Golden Globe winners. And now we're going to be moving on to the 29th annual Critics' Choice Awards winners, which at the time of this recording was just last night. So you see those graphics there. That was done overnight. You're welcome. I did that for you.
Thank you.
We'll start again with the film categories. And if you thought Oppenheimer swept at the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice was like, hold my beer, because Oppenheimer won 8 awards last night. Incredible. And forgive me, I'm going to repeating a lot of names here, especially as we go on into the rest of the awards. And for the nominations, which Ernesto are going to be listing in a few, it's just how it is this year. Everyone likes the same stuff. Everyone's nominating for all the same things. And that's how the awards be. That's how that be all the time.
It do be like that.
It do be like that. But yeah, Oppenheimer won 8 Critics' Choice Awards. Just going down the list, we got Best Picture, Best Director, Christopher Nolan, Best Supporting Actor, Robbie Downey Jr., Best Acting Ensemble, Best Cinematography, Best Score, Best Editing, and Best Visual Effects. Even though there was no effects bringing off that bomb. So
I think that was the point, and we talked about
yes, I agree. I think that was the point. But yeah, what a feat for Oppenheimer. I mean, I can't be more happy for Christopher Nolan and all of his accolades that he's getting. I feel like I said before with the Golden Globes, he is now getting his flowers from all of the amazing work he's done, even with the Batman films and Inception and Interstellar. Is like he's now glowing in the moment from all of his hard work he's done in many, many years.
I 100% agree. And I think this is, we're going to continue to hear his name in this film a lot more often, as we're on our road to the Oscars.
And it's funny because I feel like I need to watch Oppenheimer again because I never really thought about it for its cinematography. For editing, yeah, I can see editing, but not its cinematography. That's the one thing that did not stand out to me at the time that I was watching it. More recently, I praised Maestro for its cinematography. So I'm surprised that that's not even getting mentioned in that. But yeah, Barbie also had a great it's Barbenheimer. It was a joke back in the summer, but now that title is still swinging here at the award season. Barbie won 6 Critics' Choice Awards. It won for Best Comedy, Best Original Screenplay, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, Best Hair and Makeup, and Best Original Song. Not for Billie Eilish, for the right one. I'm Just Ken. Ryan Gosling.
I'm just a Ken.
It's a fantastic song, and the Oscars would be remiss if they did not at least nominate it, because if you nominate it, then he has to perform it. And that's what everybody wants to see.
I think that, Hollywood, everybody loves Ryan Gosling. That's what they want to see, regardless even if they don't want him to win. But for the sake of the Oscar performances, that would be a highlight of the night. That would get
absolutely.
That would be a highly marketable moment for the Oscars. So I'd be interested if they don't nominate I'm Just a Ken.
I 100% agree. Like I think more people are leaning for the win to go to Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For, which sure, I get it. But if you don't at least nominate I'm Just Ken, that you miss. You're gonna have. Do you remember when they nominated the quote unquote the wrong Encanto song, and it was like there was songs at the end of Encanto, but then they're like, oh, but we're gonna have a special performance of Don't Talk About Bruno.
Yeah,
and I was like, for what? Because you realize because more people wanted to see that performed than the other song. Yeah. Get out of here! You made your choice. Yeah. You made that bed.
So true. It's like, really? It's like, this is a song we want to nominate, but this is a song everybody wants to see you perform. It's like, so why don't you just nominate that one? This seems to be the more enjoyable song. Whatever.
and maybe they learned their lessons last year with RRR Not To. Yeah. Because it was nominated and it was won and it was the best performance of the night. And so, I'm just saying, if you want the ratings, Academy, I know you're listening. Because everyone listens to Box Office Binges and what we have to say. I'm sure. They have their pens and papers out right now. It's taking notes. You nominate I'm Just Ken. Just saying. Moving on. Like he came out with a Christmas album. I mean,
did he really?
Well, I shouldn't say album. He came out with different I'm Just Ken renditions, and one of them is a Christmas version of it, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Barbie, Oppenheimer, sweeping. Also, good on the holdovers. Also, taking the cake. Winning Best Actor for Paul Giamatti. Best Supporting Actress for Divine Joy Randolph. And there's a category here for Critics' Choice called Best Young Actor/Actress went to Dominique Sessa. And we were just talking about the trio of them, and they swept in those acting categories.
Well deserved.
It was interestingly enough, Paul Giamatti beat out Cillian Murphy and Bradley Cooper in the Best Actor award, which are being looked at as the high contenders for that. I mean, Cillian Murphy, Best Actor, in the Golden Globes went to Cillian Murphy. Let me rephrase. Cillian Murphy won the Golden Globe for Best Actor, but that was in a drama. And then Paul Giamatti won it for comedy. There's no difference in the Critics' Choice, so they gave it to Paul Giamatti. That would be interesting going into the Oscar season. The Oscar noms on most likely Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti most likely get nominated. But who do you go for? Because those are two vastly different performances.
And each of them have their own merit. This is going to be a tough Oscar season. It really is.
Absolutely. It really is. But yeah, I'm so happy the holdovers is getting some recognition because it felt for me like a hidden gem of the holiday season. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, go on Peacock. It's on Peacock right now.
And then go listen to our review.
And then go listen to exactly. Yes, go listen to our review after that. Or vice versa. We don't care what order you do it in, as long as the listening to our review is within that order somewhere. Best Actress went to Emma Stone for Poor Things. Best Adapted Screenplay went to American Fiction. Best Animated Feature went to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And Best Foreign Language Film went to Anatomy of a Fall. So I think, aside from American Fiction, because we haven't seen the movie yet, again, actress, Emma Stone, Poor Things. That's now 2 for Emma Stone. I think we're looking at the future here.
Oh yeah.
We don't know.
I'm saying this Oscar, when those nominations drop, they have a hard selection this year.
Yeah, that to say the least. And then again, Best Animated Feature went to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, not The Boy and the Heron. So obviously the critics and the Golden Globes, they split that line on which film might deserve that award, but it definitely feels like it's between those two. Yeah. Moving on to the television categories, I'm going to repeating some names here. Succession won Best Drama Series. Best Actor Best Actor Drama went to Kieran Culkin. Did I say that right?
Kieran Culkin, yeah.
Kieran Culkin. And Best Actress Drama went to Sarah Snook. Same names as the Golden Globes. They're both on the same page here. The Bear, Best Comedy Series, took away 4 Critics' Choice Awards. Best Comedy Series, Best Actor Comedy, Jeremy Allen White. Best Actress Comedy went to, can you say her name again?
Ayo Edebiri.
Thank you. And Best Supporting Actor went to Ebon Moss Bachrach.
I read that as Ebon Moss Bachrach.
Bachrach. Okay, yeah. I believe he played the brother, right? The older brother.
Yes.
I think that was him. Yes.
The one who they sent to the fine dining restaurant, which was that was his episode, probably one of the best episodes of television I've seen in a really long time.
Absolutely. That was oh my God, so good. Yeah. But yeah, him winning Best Supporting Actor makes a lot of sense. Best Supporting Actor Drama went to Billy Crudup for The Morning Show. Yes. Yeah. 100%. We're going to be talking about The Morning Show later in our Whatcha Watchin. Yep. Best Supporting Actress Drama went to Elizabeth Debicki, again, for The Crown. And Best Supporting Actress Comedy went to Meryl Streep in Only Murders in the Building. She had a role in Only Murders in the Building Season 3. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense there. I have yet to continue watching that show. It's always there. It's just not winning anything, but it's always like people are still nominating it for things. But which, funny enough, because of the Hollywood strike, they now started airing the first season on cable of Only Murders in the Building. Hilarious. Because they don't have any content to fill right now because they're on a delay. So I think that is quite funny. And rounding out the Critics' Choice, we have Beef. It wins again for Best Limited Series, Best Actor Limited Series, Steven Yeun, and Best Actress Limited Series for Ali Wong. Again, the critics and the Golden Globes are kind of on the same page here on who they really like for Best Limited Series. But yeah, there you go. The Critics' Choice and the Golden Globe winners. It definitely is starting to paint a picture here, Ernesto. The road and the turns that it's making to the Oscars are becoming a lot more clearer on definitely nominations and potential winners here.
Very true. Well, all right. Let's move on to some nominations. The 30th annual Screen Actor Guild Awards nominations have been announced. So, outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. We got American Fiction, Barbie, The Color Purple, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer. This is going to be an interesting category.
Yeah, especially because it's a collective. Yeah. So, as a collective, how you did, and I feel like some movies have a bigger cast to go off of.
But then it's not even about how big the cast is. It's just how a certain group works together to do the thing. So, I mean, the only two we haven't seen is American Fiction and Color Purple. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that. So we're moving on to outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role. Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Great great mix there. The only difference we're seeing now is Coleman Domingo and Rustin. I haven't really heard a lot about this. It's only recently I've been hearing that like maybe his performance is the best thing, kind of like the best thing about this movie.
Yeah, I feel like every year there's always that one movie that just like stands out in the acting categories. It's like because typically Best Picture, right? You have your nominees there, and then the acting will follow whatever was nominated for Best Picture. But every now and then you have a movie like Rustin that kind of just like, well, his performance was really good in that movie, and then it's a random movie that I feel like that we're giving him the nom, but there's no way they're winning. That's how sometimes I see that award going. Sure. It's unfortunate, but like it's sad to say, but if your movie did not get nominated for Best Picture, it is a slim chance that your acting will represent that movie.
True. And what's really interesting in that it almost like puts a lot of these companies on notice, like, hey, you got an award-winning picture for 2025. Here's somebody who is underutilized, who's amazing in this underutilized movie. You know,
I mean, you make a good point because I mean, even look at Cillian Murphy. Like Cillian Murphy has been killing it in Peaky Blinders, even though I haven't seen it, but he's been a long like collaborator with Christopher Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy, in Inception. Like he's been there, but A Quiet Place, but he hasn't like been given the chance to like shine in a starring role in quite some time, especially in a Christopher Nolan movie. And now you finally put him up on the podium, and now he's killing it.
I've always been a fan. Have you ever seen the movie Red Eye with him and Rachel McAdams?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, and if I have seen it, I don't remember it.
It is well worth the watch. It is worth your time, especially if you really want to get an appreciation for him. Like, what a great movie where he plays the villain. Like, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Okay,
yeah, very good film.
But I think this category is the one that we're going to be talking about. Like, I think this one's the tough one, sure. the best actor, because me personally, even though he hasn't won anything yet, I think Bradley Cooper definitely deserves to be up there. But I think the more the conversation is, do you give it to Paul Giamatti or you give it to Cillian Murphy? That's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, the other performances are great, and once again, we haven't seen American Fiction, so I mean, we could be a different conversation after we review that movie. So
very true.
So moving to outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role: Annette Bening in Nyad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, Margot Robbie in Barbie, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. Once again, really hard. I kind of see it. I mean, I really see it between. I haven't seen Nyad, but I mean, all four of those: Lily Gladstone, Carey Mulligan, Margot Robbie, and Emma Stone were fantastic. Maybe more so Emma Stone, Carey Mulligan, and Lily Gladstone. I kind of see it between the three of them because each of them, they were the best things about those films.
Yes, and given what we know about the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice winners, it might just be up to Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone.
True.
Because the Killers of the Flower Moon is definitely getting nominated for things, but it's being overlooked by other films. And honestly, I'm okay with that. We had our thoughts for Killers of the Flower Moon. You can go listen to that episode about it. But like Lily Gladstone is arguably the best thing about it.
Yeah.
And we can also see that there was, even going back to the best actor, there was at one point where Leonardo DiCaprio was being talked about for best actor. His name is not there. So I think it's a consensus that we moved on from Leonardo DiCaprio, and now we're leaning on Lily Gladstone to represent Killers of the Flower Moon in the higher ups of the award season. But that's another tough race. That's going to be really interesting to see.
True. Very true. Very true. Moving on to outstanding performance by an ensemble in a drama series, we have The Crown, The Gilded Age, The Last of Us, The Morning Show, and Succession. Once again, great shows. The Gilded Age, I think, is the only one I haven't seen. Looking forward to see how that comes out. And then we have
sorry, the I feel like in Succession's year, I feel like it's gonna take it, but the morning show in The Last of Us also had a great cast surrounding it. I mean, the nom is definitely warranted, and The Crown I feel like always gets nominated, so that's The Crown. But yeah, those two, those three, those four, yeah, well deserved.
Very true. Moving on, outstanding performance by an ensemble in a comedy series: Abbott Elementary, Barry, The Bear, Only Murders in the Building, and Ted Lasso. I think we know that which one of these is the obvious winner, and if it doesn't win, there will be riots.
The Bear definitely seems to be the front runner, but also, again, every nomination here is warranted. They all had great casts to elevate their comedic chops or dramatic sense, and it's like even Abbott Elementary. I think Abbott Elementary won a lot of the awards last year, but now they're like, the Bear's like, all right, you had your chance, Abbott. Now it's my turn.
Sit down. Why don't you take a break?
There
you can find the full list of nominees of the 30th Annual SAG Awards on Instagram at Saga. It's at Saga Awards, SAGAA Awards. The winners will be announced live on Netflix Saturday, February 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And how interesting is that you're going to be able to see it live on Netflix. So we're starting to see more of the streaming services dipping their toes into streaming these live events. You know, we've seen it with football. We're seeing it with all these award shows. I mean, that's the future. Yeah, it's the way for it to be done.
Absolutely. And I'm very, very surprised that with the Oscars always airing on ABC, that Disney Plus and or Hulu has not aired the Oscars on streaming. That's the biggest, what are you doing? Unless they're really focusing on cable network numbers. But at the same time, I mean, come on, guys, get with the times now. Like, you have the Golden Globes being streamed for the last 3 years on Peacock, or maybe not the last 3 years, but still, the Golden Globes was on Paramount Plus this year because it was on NBC, which was on Peacock. So, but either way, the Golden Globes has found a streaming home this entire time. The Critics' Choice was unfortunately on the CW, which I think is called CW now. I think they dropped the. So I think it's just called. It's the CW, but it's not. It's CW. But either way, it aired that. I don't have cable, so wasn't able to watch that. But yeah, to your point, we're gonna get there. Give it another couple of years, and every live event will be available to stream somewhere.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to be moving on to the 76 Directors Guild Awards have been announced for film. Greta Gerwig and Barbie, Yorgo Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, and Martin Scorsese for The Killers of the Flower Moon. Were all nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Theatrical Feature Film. For TV, episodes of The Last of Us and Succession were nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in a Dramatic Series, while episodes of Barry, The Bear, Ted Lasso were nominated for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in a Comedy Series. You can find the full list of nominees at the 76th Annual DGA Awards on Instagram at Directors Guild. The winners will be announced Saturday, February 10th. So,
I think as far as directors go, that's a good lineup.
Absolutely.
You got Greta Gerwig, Yorgos Lanthimos, like Barbie, Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, Alexander Payne for The Holdovers. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear who's going to win it, but also I think that's a great lineup.
Yeah, and it's good to see that that all these films are getting even if they don't win, that they're also getting the recognition through the nominations. So at least the very most they can get that. It's also interesting to see that specific episodes of The Bear, and Ted Lasso all gave great seasons of television, and I felt like there's one episode in each of those that really stick out to you. Like we were just talking about that episode of The Bear.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the one that's being looked at for The Bear is the family dinner one.
Oh, of course.
I think that's the one that's being that makes a lot of sense.
But, I would argue that the episode Forks is equally as impactful as the Christmas dinner episode. I mean, I think
Absolutely.
narratively, I think that episode means more to kind of the core of Jeremy Allen White's character. But man, what a great episode that was with Forks. Like, I'll be interested to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, but and you actually make a really good point. Like, even though you didn't win, I think it's even as impressive with the nomination. Yeah. Like, even if you didn't win it, everyone wants to win. But at least if you got nominated, you're being recognized, and you can never take away a nomination. Like, once it's there, you can say, I am a nominated director at insert award show here. Yeah. Like, and that can hold a lot of weight when you're trying to get projects greenlit for future projects.
True.
It's like, well, now I'm a Golden Globe nominated. Did you see my movie Barbie? Like, Greta Gerwig can do whatever the hell she wants now, whether she wins or not.
Very true.
And also like Martin Scorsese can always do what he wants, and the same for Christopher Nolan. But even Alexander Payne, I mean, he's been doing some work, but now that his movie is getting a lot of attention, maybe he can actually get a project off the ground that means a lot to him in a different sense. Like, because I'm sure they always have projects that's been sitting in their back pocket for a while, but no one's willing to greenlight it. But then in a better scenario, then it's like, okay, now we're willing to greenlight this project.
It's also a movie that we initially wrote off. Same thing with Poor Things.
We did. Yes. Yeah. And again, I'm really happy that we were wrong. Yeah. And I think in some cases that's what we want. We want to be wrong for writing off movies. Because that just means, I think that just impresses us more.
Agreed.
When we come out of it and talk about it. Like, we had our expectations with like Oppenheimer because it's Christopher Nolan. We love Christopher Nolan. So much so that we did a whole standalone episode on going over his filmography at the time. Go back a couple of years ago and you can listen to that episode. It's on our creator spotlight. But like, so we had our own expectations going into Oppenheimer, but we had other expectations, say, going into Killers of the Flower Moon because of Martin Scorsese's history and also my love for The Irishman.
True.
So yeah, he had a lot of, and so it's a whole bunch of different things. And you have the holdovers where it's like, I wasn't expecting anything because the trailer looked like it was going to suck. And now he's a director I'm looking out for in the next project because I love the holdover so much.
And it makes me want to go back and watch Sideways, which is another highly regarded movie that I've never seen.
Also starring Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. All right, and lastly, let's talk about the 35th annual Producers Guild Awards have been nominated. Outstanding Producer for Theatrical Motion Picture. We have a laundry list here. American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Those movies I just listed right there might just be our Best Picture nominations. I'm calling it now. Ooh. I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is 10 films. Oscars go for 10. I have a strong inkling that these 10 movies that just got nominated for Producers Guild might just take the Best Picture noms.
Those are strong words, sir.
I know.
You're making some heavy predictions there.
This is also the first time that the Producers Guild had nominated 2 international films for the top award, which being Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest. The Zone of Interest is a movie we have not talked about as much, but it's been in the awards conversation, and it has a lot of legs going into the Oscars because Anatomy of a Fall, because Friends decided to nominate a different film into the international category, will not be nominated for Best International Film. So Anatomy of the Fall's best case is to actually be nominated for Best Picture. But that means because it's not in the international category, which has been sweeping in the other award shows, that leaves a lot of room for The Zone of Interest to come in and take that award.
It's true.
Or Society of a Snow, which we are still getting to later on in this snow. In this snow.
Nice.
In this show. There it is. But yeah, I mean, from the movies that we have seen so far, and we have seen 8. Wow. We've seen 8 out of the 10. Yeah. Look at us.
Look at that. January, we're already leaps and bounds ahead, ready to go.
Absolutely.
I tell you, every year we get a little bit more prepared every year.
I'm just hoping we can. We're gonna be reviewing American Fiction soon, and my goal, and it might not be the year, but I just want to knock them all out before they're nominated. That'll make me so happy.
Like if Zone of Interest is on there, you can't even. That one doesn't even count. Like you still get credit for it because it's not available to us.
I guess that's fair, but I still want.
You're gonna fly to the country and go watch the movie, Matthew? Like I love movies.
If I have to, Ernesto.
Let's be logical. Be logical. Just wait till it comes here.
Just be logical. Don't waste all this money. I also think it's a UK movie, and now that I'm thinking out loud, I think it's a UK film, The Zone of Interest. But anyway, those are your theatrical motion picture nominations. A lot of people look at the Producers Guild as like a Best Picture race. Yeah. Because it's like it's not specific on like the producers represent the entire film for the most part, and so a lot of people look at the Producers Guild to be like, this movie, if it wins, has a good chance of winning Best Picture. Outstanding producer of animated theatrical motion picture, we have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I think it's worth noting that Wish is not on here. And that's a shame because I think for whatever reason, Wish is just not connecting with audiences. And I know we both really enjoyed this movie. I feel like that, like the animation was different enough, the story was good enough, the music was great. It's like, I don't understand the hate for that film.
I think it just, for me, and we talked about it in the review, like Wish just seemed rushed. Like it had a lot of good, like Wish had an opportunity to me to be like the next great Disney film, but I felt like the story was rushed. If they had just flushed out a couple more aspects of the story, that we would have been talking about like Best Animated Picture for the year.
I know. It's just such a shame. But I think honestly, the only movie I would swap it out for is a Super Mario Bros. Movie, because I feel like that movie was very, very polished, very clean, very fan servicey, and it made $1 billion. But after that, like it was meant for a younger audience. Yeah. Like the animation looked great. Don't get me wrong, but like there's a lot more that goes into this movie other than just good looking animation. Sure. And I feel like Wish kind of takes that over Super Mario's, but. Needless to say, everyone loves Mario, so why not? It's me. I'm a win. But yeah, it's I'm a win. Can you imagine? I would be quite shocked. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now? You're giving it to the brothers of Mario."
Yeah, compared to The Boy and the Heron, like this man has just spilled his soul and talked about how he's about his interfacing with death, and you're gonna give it to Mario. Oh no.
You're gonna give it to Peaches. But I'm happy to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles up there. I really hope it gets the nom, because to me that was a fun movie that had fun with the story, the characters, and the animation.
Yeah, messy animation that made for a beautiful story.
Look at that. That's the great wrap up. That's a one sentence review right there.
Exactly.
Outstanding producer for episodic television drama goes to The Crown, The Diplomat, The Last of Us, The Morning Show, and Succession. Again, it's Succession, Morning Show, Last of Us seems to be the round favorite on all these different award shows. The Crown is also up there as well. And then you always have the one that, whichever one they want to pick. This award show, you have The Diplomat up there. Others, it's not. It's other shows. But yeah, and then you have outstanding producer of episodic television comedy, and the usual suspects. You have The Bear, Barry, Jury Duty, Only Murderers in the Building, and Ted Lasso. I like to see that Jury Duty is getting some looks, because that was hilarious.
Still haven't had a chance to watch that. I got to check that one out.
It's when you get a chance. It is some really funny. Like it's weird because it doesn't feel like it's scripted, but the whole thing is, and that's the point. Like it toys a line with reality and scripted, because there are moments that are scripted to get you to the points. It's almost like we need the story to go Like, we're going to guide the story this way, but then we're leaving a lot of room for open possibilities. But then eventually, like, if we have the first act and we know we need to start here and we need to end here, but we don't know how the middle is going to go because it all depends on the reaction of the guy who does not know what's happening.
Like, if he's not in on it, then it's like not even worth it, right? Is that
well? So the whole premise of the show is that this guy is going in for jury duty, but what he doesn't know is that everybody around him are actors, and this is a fake trial. But he believes
that it's real.
That it's real, right?
Oh, but damn, he's got to take off time of work. Like, damn.
And then you also have James Marsden in there, who plays him like an asshole version of himself, stuck in this trial as well. So he's playing himself, but in like an over-exaggerated version and being like overly Hollywood about it. To the point where there was one funny line where he was like to the guy who doesn't know what's going on. He's like, "Yeah, I was also in Sonic," and I was like, "Sonic? I've never seen that movie. I heard that movie sucked." Like, he told that to him, and then like literally the next day, "Hey man, I saw Sonic. It was a good movie," and like it felt so genuine
because it really was him. He's like, "Oh fuck, look, he's right there!" Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is so funny.
All right,
it's so funny. It's a quick watch too. The only thing that I don't like, it's on Freevee. Like, so it's Amazon owns it. So if you go to Prime, it'll take you to Freevee that will show the episode. But because you have Prime, you don't pay for ads. That doesn't mean shit. You still got to sit through the ads, which is annoying.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Like, if you have Prime, you should be able to get Freevee, no ads.
Thank you, but that ain't it. That ain't
or
the
give
case.
somebody the option to pay for Freevee, no ads. You would think they would want to make more money. I guess then it's not free. Then it's not free anymore. Then it's not free.
Then it's not free. Yeah,
it could be pay-vee.
But anyway, you can find the full list of nominees of the 35th Annual Producers Guild Awards on Instagram at Producers Guild. The winners will be announced Sunday, February 25th. So a lot of these award nominations, most likely around February time, we're going to see those winners. And then, of course, in March, we're going to get March 10th, to be exact, is the Oscars. That we're going to be watching that live. And the nominations for those Oscars, we're going to be talking about next week in next week's episode. That's the big one, Ernesto. That's the nominations we also been looking for. Also next week, we are going to be talking about the Emmys. The Emmys Awards should have been in September, but because of all of the Hollywood strikes that were going on, it got pushed all the way back to actually, at the time of this recording, tonight. So we don't know the winners yet, but the Emmys is on the horizon as well. So we're still going to be talking about the awards coming in next week, but next week is the big one. Next week is the Oscars, the one we've been waiting for. That's when Matt puts on his detective hat to look for the documentaries, the live action shorts, the animated shorts, all that stuff. But last thing we're going to talk about in some non-related award news, we got one story to talk about. And something we briefly mentioned in last week's episode, Lucasfilm announced that a brand new Star Wars movie directed by Jon Favreau is in development, and it is called The Mandalorian and Grogu. The film will be heading to theaters, and it's set to begin production in 2024, with Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni all producing. The Star Wars team shared that The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucas's film's ongoing feature development slate, including films held by Sharmeen Abdade Shinowi. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. James Mangold and Dave Filoni. According to Deadline, The Mandalorian Season 4 is reportedly still happening alongside a new movie. Lucasfilm also confirmed that Ahsoka Season 2 is in development as well, which is pretty much what we expected for Ahsoka. But moving on to this, I don't know how I like about this, Ernesto.
I didn't know how I feel. And to be honest, I dropped off I dropped off after the big reveal of a very old character in Season 2. Is where I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And then it led into like the Book of Boba Fett. And then it was like back to Season 3 of Mandalorian. And then now Ahsoka Season 1 is tied into that timeline as well?
It is, but it has no mention of the Mandalorian and whatever's going on. So you can watch that as a standalone. It's more of a continuation off of Rebels than it is a continuation off the Mandalorian.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Ahsoka season 1. I mean, Rebels season 5. Is that what it is? Or Rebels season 4?
Yeah, Rebels season 5, because there's 4
so
seasons.
So then Ahsoka would be Rebels season 6.
No, sorry, it'll be Rebels season. Ahsoka will be Rebels season 5. Rebels had 4 seasons.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, here's my gripe with this particular piece of news, and it's that because when I first read it, I thought of 2 things at first. One, is this replacing The Mandalorian season 4? And it's not. And 2, is this replacing the Dave Filoni film that has said that was going to be connecting all of those live action shows together, which it also isn't. So Dave Filoni is still working on his movie that is supposed to connect The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. So that's still happening. And Mandalorian season 4 is still happening. So this is a completely new project, a new film featuring these 2 characters, directed by one of the creators of the show, Jon Favreau. For me, we don't need that much.
Yeah, like it just seems like we're really riding that Grogu train. That's kind of where I'm at with that. It just seems like everybody loves Grogu, which is fine. He's a wonderful, fun-loving character. But it's like if we make this, people will watch it and we'll sell more shit.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's gonna be bad, but
I'm not saying it's gonna be good either.
I'm not because we had 2 good seasons of The Mandalorian. And then we had season 3, which was not as great as the first 2 seasons. I even talked about last week how it was a little bit of a disappointment of one of the seasons that come out in 2023, because you set a high bar. It's hard to cross it once you had some 2 great seasons with meaning behind it. And now with the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian season 3, it's now been diluted because it's not as precious as it once was. But now you're telling me that The Mandalorian is going to be in his own standalone movie, that it's going to go into season 4 of The Mandalorian, and then it's going to go into Dave Filoni's movie where it's going to wrap everything up.
Okay.
You haven't given me anything of recent note that deserves all that screen time.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me that this was replacing season 4 of The Mandalorian, then I would be more excited, because that makes a lot of sense to me. Condense his story within a 2-hour time frame instead of me sitting here for 8 episodes watching filler for 6.
I wonder if season 3 is going to be one of those seasons where it's kind of like setting the stage for all this crazy shit that's about to happen. I mean, do you see narratively where him and Grogu can have their solo adventure that could lead into season 4?
I mean, honestly, The Mandalorian has always been a series of solo adventures. And then who does he meet along the way? I mean, The Mandalorian season 4 was mainly about Bo-Katan. Season 3 was mainly about Bo-Katan as part of the Mandalorian collective. Now, I will say this. If The Mandalorian season 4 does not feature The Mandalorian, and it features the Mandalorians that were featured in season 3, then okay, I see where you're going for here. Because at the end of season 3 of The Mandalorian, he seems pretty chill wherever he is. He's at a stopping point. That whole story is at a stopping point. There needs to be a new thread out there for him to continue moving forward. And I thought personally that that threat that was introduced in Ahsoka was the through line that was going to continue us moving forward. But now you're telling me that there is another season and another movie before we even get to potentially another season of Ahsoka, before we potentially get to yet a movie that's being directed by Dave Filoni. It's a lot of projects in this same world, and I understand that this is Star Wars' currently most profitable series right now, and they want to ride that train. But if you're not showing me anything that deserves all of this screen time, then we're just going to continue to go down before we go up. So
end it on a bad note.
Exactly. So I have trust mainly in Dave Filoni, and I do like the work of Jon Favreau. I want them to prove me wrong, because these last few outings have not been
great
it for me. Yeah. Like even like I enjoyed Ahsoka season 1. I just thought it was gonna be a lot better. So there we go with that. As much as I have faith in Marvel, I have faith in Lucasfilm that one day, it will go back to. I'll be very happy to watch these projects again. But I'm in the bag regardless. I'm gonna watch all of it. Is what I do.
And then you're either gonna love it or you're gonna bitch about it. And I guess we'll just
exactly.
have to see what happens.
and it's a guarantee. I will tell you on this show.
We will know.
But there you go. That's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can find all the latest and breaking news on our Instagram page at boxoffice_bingers, as well as our Facebook and Threads page at Box Office Bingers. We will report all of the news over there first, and then we'll come back to the show and we'll talk about it. So with that, we're going to be diving into our fun segment we like to call Whatcha Watchin. So Ernesto, we'll start with you. What have you been watching?
So I haven't been watching much. I have like 2 things. So the first thing is the miniseries on Netflix, All the Light We Cannot See. I think we were talking about nominations, and this one was on there. So I wanted to check it out. So it's a miniseries based on Anthony Doerr's Pulitzer winning novel with the same name. It features a small blind girl and a German soldier whose paths collide during World War II. And the basic premise is she uses a radio to communicate throughout to the Americans, and the German soldier is tasked with finding her, but she's blind, and she can only so she's blind, and she's and he's like this expert radio waves guy who can track the signal, and he's tasked with finding her, but then he listens to her message. It's a really interesting story. It's not a true story, but it is true to the story of World War II. So like it's set in St. Malo. It's a walled city that plays a pivotal role in the story in the 1944 siege in the battle for its liberation in the Nazi occupation. So they depicted the event in there, but obviously the characters surrounding the event is fictional. And I think this is a really interesting way to showcase history through these fictional narratives, like the main thing that's true about it is the significance of the radio in this city during this time.
Okay.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's got Mark Ruffalo in it, Hugh Laurie's in it. I believe it's only 4 episodes.
Yeah, it's only 4 episodes, and I'm pretty sure every episode is directed by Sean Levy, who did Free Guy and The Atom Project, and is on his way to do Deadpool 3. So I'm surprised he had time to, whenever he did this, to like, I'm making all these movies, but here's this limited series that I'm working on. He's also responsible for a lot of episodes of Stranger Things.
Yeah. It was really interesting. I'd highly suggest watching it. It's a really great watch. Mark Ruff, especially coming off of Poor Things, like it was very interesting to see Mark Ruffalo in his character in Poor Things, and then to see him like completely opposite in this role. Like it actually kind of plays into like how great his range is.
Yeah, I did have a lot of interest of watching this, mainly because it was only 4 episods, and so it's like that was already an intrigue there. It's like that's a limited series I can get behind. Done. 4. That's an afternoon right there. But it did look really good. So I'm happy to hear that it is actually good.
Yeah. And then the only other thing that I have that I started watching, we're about 3 episodes in, I mentioned to you, was The Morning Show. I'm definitely enjoying this season. It really didn't pick up for me until 2 things. It started to pick up for me during the leak. There's this big data leak that comes out early on in the series. But I think following that, the interview between one of the board members and one of the anchors based off one of the leaks that happens, to me, that was such a pivotal moment in the narrative itself. I think that conversation was interesting. I mean, listening to her responses was really well thought out, and kind of just how they played into such a delicate conversation, especially in the climate of our world.
Yes. I 100% agree with you on that. What I loved about the season more, because I finished the morning show season 3. We actually watched it in like 3 days. And it's funny that because we didn't talk about this. It's funny that we both started this now, even though the show's been out for a minute and it's been over for, I think, since November. And both of us, without talking to each other, decided to dive into it now. I think that's hilarious. Excuse me. But yeah, I think this is a strong third season. I talked about it last week in my one of my top shows of 2023, and I had just watched it, and I was like, wow, that was a fantastic season, way better than season 2. I think leaving the Steve Carell storyline, I think was a good thing for the show, because then it was able to grow out of what made the show popular in the first place, and then kind of a soft rebrand on what messages can we tell in the climate that we're in now under the setting of this newsroom.
Great point.
And I mean, we went from tech moguls buying companies to race to world events and how they were reacting to it. They even tackled like a lot of this, like they did a great job, and it was almost like the episode of the week of which big topic or which big thing we're going to be highlighting in each episode. And also you have the story narratively in there that's still being talked, still like surrounding COVID. And I think how they dealt with COVID in this was also really well done. Like, I know you're getting snippets of it, but you're also going to see later episodes that they're going to talk about stuff that happened in between when it was like on lockdown and stuff. And how even Jennifer Aniston's character, they mentioned of how like the UBA Plus streaming service boosted because of the pandemic and her like going through her process as she was having COVID. And like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of shows here during the pandemic that got huge ratings because of the setting that we were in and how we were forced to be locked down and everything. But great third season. I'm really looking forward for you to continue off of that. They ended it in an interesting way, and I think there's a season 4 coming. But yeah, I think you're going to be in for it's interesting that you said that it took you a minute to pick up on it, because I was locked in by episode 1.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like, it just took me a minute to kind of. I also felt like I was playing catch up, because you don't. I feel like you didn't. It's been so long since the last one, and I didn't feel like I got a strong enough recap.
That's the thing. You make a really good point there. We need a strong recap. Yeah. Hey, people of the internet, we need stronger recaps. Like, yeah. You spent with like these seasons are years apart. We're not going to remember every detail of it.
I shouldn't have to go to YouTube for your show. Like, you should give me an official recap that you want, that gives me a good enough, like, hey, it's been a while. You need to remember these things, or at least remember that these things happened.
Exactly. And like most shows do give you a recap. Yeah. But at the same time, they're like, all of a sudden they're talking about something in the first episode. It's like, well, that wasn't the recap. Yeah. Clearly, if this was important, it should have been in the recap.
Help me get on board.
Thank you. Yes. Like, I want to continue watching your show, but I need a little help here. Like, it's not somebody else's job that they're doing it most likely for free to give us some help. Like, you can pay people to do that. True. But yeah, I look forward to hearing more of your thoughts on the morning show season 3.
And that's all I got. And I know we're that's kind of you're going into yours. What else you got?
Yes, I believe the next thing we're going to be talking about is something you talked about 2 weeks ago, and it is Saltburn. Yep, there it is. Okay. I did not care for this movie.
Yeah, I would imagine you wouldn't.
Not in the slightest. I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I'm just saying that it just dragged for me. Like, it's not even the absurdity. I think that's the shock value in this movie, it's what's getting the headlines. Like, and I feel like for me, I need more than shock value to get me through a movie.
I agree.
Like, and sure, we can talk about those shocking moments that happen, but other than that, it's like,
how gross!
How
gross was that bathtub scene? I tried to undercut it as much as possible.
You did, because because literally the scene's happening and I saw what was going on. I was like, here's the bathtub scene. It's like, and like in my head, based on what you said, it's like, okay, he'll probably drink the water. Oh, we're talking a little spoilers here because we both seen it, so we gave it some time. We'll talk about it. So I'm thinking, okay, this dude that he's kind of fawning over and obsessing over, just finished taking a bath, and so he's just gonna drink the bath water. That's gonna be weird enough. No, we didn't just go for bath water. We didn't even go for the like rims of the tub. No, we went for the drain. That was disgusting.
But that's not even the worst part. It's like, what else was this water contaminated with?
Oh yes, his semen.
Yeah. Man juice.
Yes.
However you want to describe it.
Yes. Yes. It was disgusting.
Unnecessary.
Very gross. Unnecessary, right? And that's the thing with this movie, because at the end of the day, right, there was a twist in this movie, right? We were seeing an older Barry Keoghan, and like giving this monologue of the events that happened in the past, and then we realized that he is still obsessing over this, what we thought was a person, more turned into a family as we get into it. Maybe a lifestyle, I don't know. But
and that's the other thing. His family wasn't even that worse off. Yeah. I mean, they were just like, the other people were just like extremely, extremely wealthy.
Yes, and my biggest gripe was the movie. You can give me as many absurd things in a movie as long as you can make it sense. And it's weird coming off of Poor Things when you had maybe not gross things happening in Poor Things, but you did have crazy stuff happening in Poor Things. And then but that they had meaning behind that eventually. And if it didn't, it just remained to be weird. And that's okay, because the story that was in Poor Things gave us a through line and made a lot of sense of everything else that was happening in this movie. In Saltburn, my biggest problem was that I don't understand his motive to basically infiltrate this family.
I can agree with that.
I don't know why he did it. It made more sense if he was obsessing over a person, but we later, again, spoilers, found out that he didn't really give a shit about him. Like, there was, to your point, there was a line there. There was a line of obsession, but there was also a line of madness and craziness and chaos that he was willing to have this family put through, and convinced to make him sign the deed over to this house. And then at the end of the day, he's just parading around naked in it. Yeah. I mean, granted, I think all of us would parade around naked in a mansion. Why not? But
after he just didn't understand the grave and
that's right.
Vampire scene.
I think, honestly, you undercut that one very well.
Which one? The vampire scene?
All you said was the vampire scene, because I was not expecting that. He's like Ernesto said something about a vampire. He's like, that's not what I was expecting. But also there was a switch there that I didn't understand, because he went from being like this shy person to then licking drains and putting, period blood in his mouth. Like,
so gross.
and then also having sex with someone's grave. It's like, those absurd moments didn't make any sense. Like, where was the switch for him to be this shy person to this crazy obsessed person, and then later find out that he did all this to gain control and like the money and the house and everything. So it's like, so you're just psychotic and a murderer, and like, you're a psychopath. That's what you are. But there was no reason behind it. And honestly, what I was expecting was that this person, the person he was fawning over, I thought he was going to do one small thing wrong to him, and then that just set him off into craziness. And I would have respected that more if they did that, but they didn't. So I don't know.
And I actually thought at the end, once he was revealing his plan to Rosamund Pike, when she was on her deathbed, I thought that he was going to try to have sex with her while she was dying. That's what I thought he
Same.
was gonna do. I mean, he had already
Mhm.
like had sex with the dirt, not even like the grave, like the dirt from the grave.
Yes. Yeah, I just think that they were just shocking. A lot of moments were just for shock value, and I just couldn't get behind the story. It just didn't make any sense to me. And so like this was the movie that I was fearing, was the one that people were talking about and I was gonna hate. It wasn't Maestro, it wasn't Poor Things. This year it was Saltburn.
It's Saltburn. Got it.
It's Saltburn. Yeah. But yeah, it was. We got to talk to Esteban about this because he said he really liked it. Yeah. We got to.
When we see next time we have him on, that's going to be we're going to have a conversation about that.
Yes. I need to earn Esteban. Why? And please explain.
What's going on here?
Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening right now? But maybe he can turn me around. Maybe he's seeing something that we're not seeing. True. But that's the whole point of this podcast. After Saltburn, however, I did watch Wes Anderson's new movie, which is on Prime right now, called Asteroid City, and it was fine. You have Wes Anderson's quirky dialogue and his cinematography. I love the way he makes his movies. Like his cinematography is fantastic. Yeah. And like the way that he transitions into scenes. My only gripe was this movie, unfortunately, was it had a great start. Like Meg and I both started this movie. She said it's too weird. I don't want to finish it. And like, okay, I know, I get it. It is weird. Don't get me wrong. But like I didn't. It kind of went downhill after the first 30 minutes. I don't know why. I'm not sure what the allure that was in the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes of this movie got lost somewhere in the last hour. It was a little bit unfortunate because I was having a good time with it, and then eventually maybe the randomness of a few things just kind of became normal, and then the story didn't really carry me through. So, but star-studded cast. I mean, you can see it right there on the poster. I mean, look at those lists of those names. It's fantastic.
Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, Bryan Cranston, Ed Norton, Adrian Brody, Margot Robbie, Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, got some pretty big names here.
A lot of big names there, and the one that I did not expect was Margot Robbie. Like, I know it's in the poster, but I didn't know she was in this movie, and she had a very small role in it. But I was like, good for you for finding time to be in this movie as well.
Hey, Barbie.
Hey. Exactly. And this came out like right before or right after June, so right before Barbie. Yeah. This came out. So yeah. And the last thing that I watched was Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Part 1, A Child of Fire. And I will say this. It's not as bad as everyone is saying.
Okay.
I do not understand the overly negative hate on the film. By that being said, it's not a flawless movie by any means. And I would even go as say it was amazing or great. But I mean, I wasn't bored for 2 hours. Like, it carried the movie fine. My biggest gripe with it was like, I give Zack Snyder respect for giving us an original story, because in this climate, that's not easy to do. You're asking the audience to like deep dive into this original sci-fi story. Okay. And with everything with Star Wars and Star Trek and even Dune, like, people pick their sci-fi and they go with it. And Zack Snyder's like, hey, I have this new offering for you. That's not an easy thing to do in this climate. So I give him props there. What he didn't give me was characters that I liked.
Okay.
And that was my biggest problem with the movie, because you have basically, and just call it what it is, because he did say this movie is basically his Star Wars. You have an empire. I don't know the names of everything. I think it's called the Mother World or whatever. I don't know the names. I'm just going to call them, reference them as anyone would in a Star Wars movie. You have the empire, okay, basically trying to take over Tatooine and all of its residents. So then you have this rebel, so to speak, who's hiding in this Tatooine-esque farm area, and she is hiding in here because she was part of the She was part of the Empire. She was basically a stormtrooper, like a highly decorated stormtrooper for the most part. And then through a series of events, she is now going against the Empire and now in hiding, basically like Luke's, Ben Kenobi in A New Hope. He's hiding from everything.
Or John Boyega's
and
character.
Then
that's just a stormtrooper gone rogue.
exactly, and also a mix of Obi-Wan Kenobi with like now we're hiding in this like farm desert area, and so then something happens, and then we have this character now on a mission to recruit other people to be in this rebellion to go against the Empire, and so the bulk of the movie was like we need to go to this town to get information. We got information. Now we need to go find this person. Then we spent about 20 minutes with this person. Now you're on the team. Great. That person recommended another person. Like that 20 minutes was him showing off their skills. So like each person had a skill set and there was a situation that was happening in that moment that needed an action set piece. And then once we overcame that action, then we moved on back onto the ship saying, I recommend this person. And then we go to that planet to go see that person, to see them overcome a challenge that they were doing in that said planet, to then recruit them in that planet. And then eventually we have a team. And that got old very quickly.
And in the final mission, everybody had a small part to play to achieve the mission.
Right. And then since this was a part one, they only tackled the small part of the issue, but it's not the big one. Not the one in part two. Like you won, what was it? You won the mission, but not the war type of deal. That's the vibe you got from like the ending of part one. So it's like, it's fine.
How long is this movie?
2 hours.
Oh, good.
It's fine. Will I watch part two? Yes. Out of pure curiosity, absolutely. I will give him credit. He put a lot into it. There's a lot of interesting creatures. There's a lot of interesting designs. It's like there was work put into this, and there was money put into this. You can see that. And I give all the credit for Zack Snyder for giving us something new, because it's not something that is easy to do with the sci-fi world. But you got to give us a little bit more. I'm sorry. The story is just not there, and the characters is also not there to carry this movie, because instead of playing the story, you're playing a caricature. It's like you're playing this, I'm playing the leader, I'm playing the general, I'm playing the guy who's good with swords, I'm playing the smart person. It's like we've seen this before. We get it. So you got it a little bit more. A little bit more.
She's even got a cloak like Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and like it's that the person in the back. It's like it's a laser. It's not a. It looks like a lightsaber, but it isn't. But it is. You know what I mean? It's like it's a sword that glows, but it's not a lightsaber because it looks more like a sword. But it is. It's like a dark saber in The Mandalorian, but it's also not because it's red. So like, there's like, you're stealing, and that's fine. I appreciate it, but again, I just
could have done better.
I need a little. You need a little bit better. Maybe part two can change my mind, but I do. I will say it does not deserve all that hate. Like there's like the critics were just bashing it, and I don't think it deserves that. There's something there, just not like, let's get it to like a decent rating. I think right now on Rotten Tomatoes it's like 35.
Oof.
Now I'm gonna do a quick search on that, because I don't think it deserves a 35. I'm gonna see what the audience say. Maybe I'm more leaning toward the audience. Rebel Moon. Of course we're loading. We're almost there. Maybe you can get it before I can. Oh, we're not gonna give it to me. Let's try one more time. All right, that's fine, iPad. I don't need information immediately, you know.
So let's see. IMDb has it as a 5.6.
That's also pretty rough. 5.6 isn't great. Wow. Thank you, Internet. I'm trying to be quick about it. We're not getting it. It's not happening today. I will. I'm gonna try one more time. because we can do better than this. No. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. It's regardless, it's a low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't think it deserved that low rating. Oh, now here we are. Wow, thank you. 22%. Lower than I thought.
That's rough.
22% on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics, and 59% for the audience. So also not technically rotten. It's still rotten in the audience score as well. But I think I'm leaning toward that 59. Like, I'll even go a little bit lower and say 50. I'll give it the solid 50, but not 22. 22 is a little harsh. But anyway, there you go. That is all we've been watching. So now we're going to be diving into our spoiler review of Society of the Snow, a potential contender for the Oscars for the best international film. Ernesto, your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah. What can I say about this besides, wow, this movie was, first of all, what an incredible story. What a, like, such a sad story. I mean, interesting enough, like last night when it was pretty cold last night. You know, I had the windows open, the air coming in from the lake. I had the fan on, and it was starting to get really cold, and we're up in the mountains, and my wife's like, I think you need to close the window and turn off the fan. It's adding too much ambiance into this crazy ass movie. I mean, it was brutal to watch. Like, certain scenes, like, I just had to hold on to my wife and just, I was like, oh, it was just bone crunching. Like, it's, for me, the scene, obviously, one of the most intense scenes is the crash scene. You know, where you're seeing everyone's injuries one by one. You're getting the sound of the engine, like everybody, bones crushing, people being impaled, and like you get those couple seconds of silence before it hits the ground, and it's just so visceral and like, that was rough to watch. Also, like the illusion, you know, they give you, they're going through the motions, and it feels like they had gotten to a place like, oh, like they're starting to figure out a way to survive, and a way to finally maybe they have some hope of a semblance of trying to make it through. And then you get the scene of the avalanche, and it just completely subverts your sense of security. Like, and it just goes from 0 to 100. Like, hey, do you hear that? And then you just get all the snow just pouring in. Oh, it was rough. That was rough. And then, like, everybody's faces when they're finally starting to get out, and it's like, how do you even think about surviving after that? Like, you're just like, you're at this group of 27, and you're all like, you're thinking, all right, this is where we're at. This is this is where we're gonna be. And then you just didn't even know 5 seconds later, like, half of you are gonna be more of you are going to be dead in like the next 15-20 seconds. And then it's, you know, them trying to get out of being buried in that tube, like thinking like this, like, even then, like, once you crash, you think this is the end, and then after you get forced with piles of snow on top of this horrific situation that you've been thrust into, it's like, how do you, like, it just is a true testament to the human spirit, and like what people are willing to do to survive. One of the scenes that really stuck with me is when Arturo is talking before he dies. He's like, I don't believe in that God. He goes, you know what God I believe in? I believe in the God that keeps Nando's legs from walking every day. I believe in I believe in the Strauss brothers who are over there cutting up the meat so it doesn't look like our friends who we've just had to bury, really making it ambiguous in us, like, and the movie really makes you question, like, what would you do? Like, most people's like, oh, I wouldn't eat a person. Well, let me have that conversation with you when you haven't eaten in 3 weeks, and that is the actual only option. There's no wildlife out here. There's nothing out here. We're in this, and even more so, like, you're in this beautiful backdrop of the mountains. I mean, we get that beautiful night shot with all the stars in the sky, completely avoid from light pollution, and like, you're in this position of like, in the fight for your life in the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Like how it really is an incredible scene. And what's interesting is I've kind of doing research. This is actually there's a 1993 movie called Alive with Ethan Hawke that is about this exact this exact event, and it's just so interesting to see like a Hollywood whitewash version, which listening to interviews, Roberto Canessa actually kind of like appreciates having that version, I guess, back then. But this is a much better representation of this story. I mean, it just the power of hope and faith, and even not even like, you know, having faith in a certain deity is just having faith in the human spirit. And like, you know, the guilty, you know, all the ones who survive, they must have that sense of having that sense of survivor's guilt. You know, this guy had to bury his wife. You know, he thought he was going to make it, and all of a sudden she gets crushed by the avalanche.
The avalanche was definitely the most heartbreaking part of this story, in my opinion. Like, we knew the crash was coming. That's what the movie was about. But to your point, when you have that sense of security and it feels like, hey, this was the first time in the film, and it was definitely done in a way that even gives the audience to drop their guard a little bit, because looks like they got their shit together. Yeah, it sucks, but hey, we build ourselves a nice little like, I wouldn't want to say fort, but they put all the suitcases in to block them from the snow. They're still cold, but you know, they're able to stay as warm as they can, and they're all just cracking jokes. It's like, can you like give us a haiku, give us a rhyme? Like, we're trying to pass the time in this terrible situation, and this is the first time in the movie where they were able to relax.
Yeah, we hear them laughing and kind of joking, right. And it just goes from one extreme to the other. I also really enjoyed how, like, most of the movie is from Numa's point of view when he clearly passed away, and he's not. Like, you know, it's just, I just thought that was interesting that a lot of the movie was from his point of view. We did kind of go back and forth where it was like you were almost with that person during this point of the I don't want to use the word adventure, but I can't, for a lack of better term,
the tragedy or like
events during this period of time.
You make a good point, because even I think his name was Marcelo. Like, he took charge in a lot of a certain part of the movie as well. Like, he was the one that was orchestrating. Like, we need to put the bodies over here. We need to do this. We need to do that. And he was the one that was like he was the person that was giving faith to like people were coming. Like people are looking for us. People are coming. Like, there's faith in there. And then all of a sudden he just died. Like, oh, I thought we were following him. You would think that he was the one to survive, but then, like, the harsh reality of it's like, nope, he's dead now. And then, to your point, they focus on another main person throughout this. And I think that was a great way of kind of giving everyone a moment to shine in this tragic situation.
I mean, absolutely. It's just. It was a brutal film. It was very good. It was just very intense to watch.
Yeah, and I feel like in some cases, like, the last brutal movie we watched was The Iron Claw, and
different kind of brutal here.
Yeah, absolutely different kind of brutal. But like, the way that I felt watching that movie, like, at least with The Iron Claw, there was a lot of moments of levity, especially toward the beginning, where we're seeing them go through the best times of this brotherhood and this family before we get to the worst times, right? And this movie didn't really have that levity for the audience. It was
all horror.
all horror, all grim, all tragic from basically start to finish. And I felt that early in the movie that this was going to be like immensely tragic, because when they took the photo of everyone, like, it was like a group photo of all 40 people right before they hopped on the plane. Like, as soon as the snapshot was there, the music cue started and it lingered on that shot. before they moved on. And in my head, I was like, oh shit, they're setting the scene here.
Yep.
It's gonna be rough from here on out. Like to me, this was like the last moment of happiness before like and that was like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and we still had another 2:10 to go. And you think that the crash would have been the worst of it, like the initial crash. The rest of it is just surviving the cold.
Yes.
And when you see the days go by that they have been buried in that snow, and like in the like this tin can basically of the airplane, and under like just collapsed. At that point, when you've done so much before that point, you question whether it's worth it to continue moving forward. You're buried in deep snow, and there's a snowstorm for days. You're freezing. It's the will to survive were strong for these people. I don't like, again, you have that sense of false security up until that point. Like you're doing your best, but at that moment, I don't even know if I could even continue after that.
I audibly gasped. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, I guess that. What do you say to that? Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like it's just one thing after another for you guys.
It was really rough, and I will say my gripe with the movie is that because there was just a lot of moving parts and we were moving from character to character, it was a little bit difficult for me to, I don't want to use the word connect, but I feel like I couldn't, the movie purposely didn't follow just one person as the leader. So as more people died, we had to pivot to the next person. And so as I was getting maybe more acclimated and more adjusted to one story that was happening, we moved on to somebody else. And I was like, okay, now I got to get a little bit of his spirit, his whatever. And later, eventually, it's more just like, it's the collective, it's the group. We're just trying to get a sense of what everyone was feeling during this time. And I do really, one of my favorite scenes was like the God, like who is like, this is the God that I want to follow. I want to follow the legs, the speech that you said. I think that was a powerful line in the movie. And then it also is just, it's sad to see that, they could have, if under the better circumstances, if they would have started that hike 10 days, like if they decided to try to go over the mountain earlier, then because it feel like the movie portrayed it as it was just a short 10-day walk over to find civilization, and then all this would have been taken care of. The movie made it seem easy when I know that it's not.
Yeah, exactly. I think I read online that I think it's over 30 miles they have to trek. Like, can you imagine in those conditions with no food, no nothing? Like, it's just you and all your stuff, the stuff you have on you. And it's like, I think they didn't wait because they really thought that they were coming for, especially in the beginning, that the search party was going to find them. And I think another part that really stuck out to me is once they finally got the radio working and like how excited they were, and then they turn it on, and one of the things they hear is, imagine hearing that they're giving up on you. Like, hey, we searched. We're not, hey guys, we're actually not going to search for you anymore. We're going to try to find your bodies at the beginning of next year. But
and that was you can feel it in that scene, how like devastating that is, that they just gave up hope. But they kind of alluded to it a little bit that might have happened, because when they were trying to get up the mountain, when he turned around, he's like, I don't see the plane. Like, if I can't see it from here, how the hell are they going to see it from up there?
Yeah.
Like it was just so like, either like it just masked in the snow that there was no way they were able to see it. And that's the heartbreaking part, because you heard planes going over day after day, and then all of a sudden nothing after the storm passed by. And even like some of the guys said, they're not looking for survivors, they're looking for bodies.
Yeah.
Like they're not. Yeah. And that's just ridiculous. And also, like, the movie also did a good job of giving us a lot of avenues for hope. And then as the audience, as our characters were going through, just keeps bringing that hope down and down, as like these people are doomed at this point, because like maybe they might survive. They stop the search. We found a radio, but we can't get it to work. We found another radio that we can maybe get communication, also not work. Like, it took the resilience of two men eventually, after over 2 months being down there, shockingly surviving that long, to then go on a 10-day hike to civilization. I often wonder, after watching that movie, if they decided to go earlier on that 10-day hike, if they would have had the will to survive as bad as they did if they didn't endure the other things that happened prior to that.
I see. I don't think they would have made it, and the only reason I say that is because when they left, the snow had already started to melt. So most of the cold season and the bad storms was already starting to pass. At least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
Because then once they got to a certain point, then we see they get to the warmer climate, and then he tries to eat the human organs, and then he throws up violently.
Yeah, and then like they were. It was funny, a little bit of a lighthearted moment there, and also just like thank God, at least something's on the uppity up. But like for a moment when he saw that lizard or that gecko or whatever, he was like, dude, this is food right here. And he's like, no, dude, turn around. That is a live human over here. Forget the lizard. Yeah. Like, this is hope right now. And I mean, I almost want to see like a documentary on this now, on like other things that might have happened in this moment. And also even when they were being rescued, there was another, to me, very shocking moment that rescue finally came, and the guy in the helicopter, because earlier, right before, when they realized that they were being saved over the radio, then the guy was collecting all of those pieces from other people, either passports, mementos, all that stuff, and he put in the suitcase. And as they were being rescued, the guy in the helicopter was like, leave the suitcase behind, and he sat on top of the suitcase and sat on the ground saying, I'm not leaving here if I'm not leaving with this suitcase. And it was a small bag, don't get me wrong, but in my head it's like, wow, he cared that much about the context and the people that were there. I mean, rightfully so. Yeah. But like,
you can't
he
take
was
their
willing
bodies. This is it.
Right.
At least this is the very least that we could do.
And he was willing to not go on that helicopter for that. And to me, that was also like a very like wow moment. Like this event that we went through means something, and there's gonna be a lot of people looking for a lot of people wanting answers, and this container has those answers. These has the people that people are looking for, the names that we might have not known before, the memories that we all went through this together. But yeah, and then also we had that moment, and I think I like that they showcased a lot of people having issues with this moment. Was when they decided to eat people. It's like they've been for food without for weeks, and it's like, we need to start eating the dead bodies.
That's where that moral ambiguity comes into place. It's like, well, it's like, they're talking about, well, like, this is illegal. It's like, well, where are the police right now? Nobody in the world gives a actual fuck about us. Like, literally no one is coming to save us right now. Like, we have to figure out how to save ourselves. Do you see any polar bears or anything else around up here that we could eat? No, unfortunately not. Like, do you think this is something that we want to do? No, definitely not.
Yeah. And they did a great job of, like, even some people, even though they were starving, still going on their values that I am not eating a person. And you saw them starve. And eventually, I don't know if everybody did it, but I think everyone eventually gave in.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know if there was?
I don't know 100% for sure, but I do know that one of the points that they even talk about is that how something that was seemed to be so hard and so demeaning at first became such commonplace. I mean, we get that one scene where the husband, after his wife has died, I don't know if he was eating her, but he's sitting out there next to a body, an open rib cage, and he pulls meat from the ribs and starts eating it. Like, that, to me, that just shows like how commonplace, like, we went from one side of the spectrum to the other, whereas something, they would cut it up so it'd be indistinguishable, and here at the end they're picking meat off the bones on whatever's left.
Right. And it's also crazy, like, that form of cannibalism, right? Yeah. Like, in any other movie setting, you'd be like, they've crossed the line. they're crazy. Like, just given the context of the movie, right? It's typically more of a horror sense or comedic sense or whatever. And this takes that level, more of a dramatic and very serious sense of things that people actually had to do to survive. And now, when you look at it, thinking, would I eat a person? And then given those circumstances, and that's the only thing you had left, and that's the only thing that's keeping you survived, yeah, you consider it, because what else do you have to do? And like, even I also thought it was a great moment, like when people were like, if I die, because they were talking about consent, like, yeah, you can maybe, if you had the consent of the person, to eat them. And as people were still alive, and then they later died, they said, like, you have my consent to eat my body. Like, that's just a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, like if I have to die, if I'm not gonna make it, the least I can do is have me help you be the thing that lets you carry on to the next day. And that's what happened. Like, these people sacrificed their bodies, and there's the reason so these other people can live, and they're the ones who are able to share their story. So like they ate them, but through them they're able to live on through these these memories. I mean, now I believe there's another movie. There's also a book that's based off of this, and now we have Society of the Snow. Like, all these people were able to live on because of the actions that took place on that mountain all those years ago.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. Like, there wasn't really an explanation of how the plane went down. I'm sure maybe documentaries can go over that, but in this movie, clearly that was not the focus. Yeah. It's not the why. It's the trials they had to go through to survive, and the fact that they survived that long. Yeah. That, to me, when I didn't really see a trailer for this. I didn't know this story. So in my head, given the conditions, I'm thinking it was weeks tops. I didn't expect it to be months. And it went from October, I think it was October 13th or October 12th, all the way to December 22nd. And to me, it's even a miracle that they were even alive that long.
I mean,
and
it's wild.
Anything else? If not, final thoughts.
Just looked it up. They were trapped for 72 days.
Wow.
As far as my final thoughts, I thought it was to be honest, it's a hard watch, but it is an absolutely fantastic movie. I mean, that kind of talks about the brutality, reality of survival. Like, what are people willing to do to survive? The kind of the human spirit versus the moral quandaries. Like, we talk about what are people willing to do to survive, and really, what are they willing to do to survive? Kind of on both ends of the spectrum. Like, physically, like, what are you willing to endure, and also what are you willing to do that in a normal setting, in normal society, you would never even think about doing, but in this setting, you have no choice if you want to be able to live. I mean, being in how hard it must have been to be in such a beautiful place, but yet still fighting for the will to survive. Like, how can you? It's so hard to be in the face of such natural beauty, and also thinking, well, this could be the last thing I see before I die.
And I think, I'm not sure if somebody even said, like, this is, like, not a bad view to die at. Like, I'm not sure if somebody said that, but I feel like that was maybe, if that wasn't said, it was definitely
it was implied. Like, I got a lot of
it was implied, yeah,
because we get a lot of shots of the mountains. I mean, we get that whole setup of the night sky in place on top of the mountains. There's scenes where we just get transitions from moment to moment with landscape shots. So it definitely seemed like that was something that they were trying to showcase.
Yeah. As far as my final thoughts, I mean, again, if I was to knock anything, was maybe the inability to connect with all the characters. It was more or less about individual characters than they were about the situation that all these characters were in. And that's a very small knock for me. Yeah. Because there was nothing I was able to connect with any person individually, because either we focused on somebody and they later died, or we focused on somebody that we quickly moved on to somebody else and they were now the focus. And so, like, there was a little bit of that I was trying to kind of connect with, but I think overall it was less about the characters, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I read that most of these actors were unknown.
Yeah.
Maybe for that reason. And it was more about the situation that these people were in, and showcasing that story. And they did a great job.
Absolutely.
Doing that. This was a very strong story. I think a lot of props go to the director, J.A.
Bayona.
Given the films we listed earlier, what was it? A Monster Calls and Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I think this is easily his best film.
Correct.
That he's done. If my merits are only those two, and I've seen both of those. I've seen A Monster Calls, which was a good movie. And what's crazy is that movie like pushed to boundaries and practical effects for A Monster Calls, and then you have Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, which is more of a, well, you know what that movie is. It's a CGI mess. It is what it is. So like, yeah, I think it's crazy that given his own devices now, maybe focusing on a story that he had a lot of passion behind and wanting to tell accurately, and showcase those horrors that they had to go through. And you can tell this movie had a lot of passion behind it, and definitely a story they wanted to do right and tell in this way. But yeah, I think directing wise, like, he did a fantastic job kind of maneuvering through the scenes, focusing on certain moments, like even giving the audience this false sense of security that, things are going to be okay. Like they're getting their shit together in this horrible situation. All of a sudden, avalanche just comes right in. And so like the timing of that, I was like around the halfway mark, and you're just like, these guys can't catch a break.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
I mean, that scene and the plane crash scene were just like, literally, I was gasping for air because it was just so like crazy and vivid. Like they gave you very vivid descriptions of what it was like to be in that situation. And I will. My only knock I think I would give it is that maybe it was a little too long. Like maybe it could have been maybe about 15-20 minutes shorter, and then maybe the story would have been a little bit more concise, especially when you're dealing with such heavy subject matter. And as far as my rating, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 stars.
It's so funny because I was just about to give the same thing. Yeah, 4.5 stars. Yeah, I do agree with you. The movie's 2 hours and 24 minutes. It could have been a solid 2 hours. It could have been a solid 2 hours. I will say that when I was watching this movie, I got a sense that it was kind of bouncing between the thoughts I were having between All Quiet on the Western Front, in the sense of how brutal some of the scenes were. Some like All Quiet on the Western Front show the brutality of war, and this showed the brutality in this tragic situation. They were not shy of showing that, especially with the plane crash and people being like impaled and squished, and like bones were breaking, and like I mean, that was just a visceral, like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And then it also reminded me of 13 Lives, of like the Ron Howard movie we saw last year, of like the willingness to survive. And it was a little bit different because in 13 Lives, the movie's focused on trying to get those people out of that situation. This was more about the survivors
trying to get
themselves out. Yeah, but the feeling that I had of these people can't just catch a break was the same feeling I had when watching 13 Lives. But luckily, at least for 13 Lives in this movie, it comes out with a somewhat of a happy ending, but it's only happy to some degree. I think 13 Lives was better of a happy ending because everyone survived that, if I'm not mistaken. But this one, I mean, there was happiness, but there was also a lot of tragedy mixed in within that. But yes, I also give it a 4.5 stars. How do you think this fares in? I guess more of the question, do you understand the high accolades for this award at least being nominated, potentially for the Oscars?
Oh, of course, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the movie's phenomenal. Like the way they constructed the story was absolutely phenomenal. So it better be in the conversation for
now. How do you think this? Even though Anatomy of the Fall is not going to be nominated for Best International Film at the Oscars, it's been winning alongside it. Like Anatomy of the Fall has been nominated for foreign film or non-English language film in other categories alongside Society of the Snow. Do you see why maybe Anatomy of the Fall was getting higher up than this movie, or do you feel like it should be reversed? But I know Anatomy of the Fall was one of your favorite movies, so
I enjoy them for different things. This one hits a little bit harder just because this is what actually happened to somebody.
Right.
Whereas Anatomy of the Fall is a great exploration of the themes and things that went over in that film.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard question because I feel like maybe it should be, especially since I just saw this one. Like me just seeing this movie and being more connected to this story, I'm gonna say Society of the Snow. And I think I think what gives it the leg up is the real world implications that it has.
Sure, yeah. I think it's always hard, especially now that you have especially when you see a category with just you have these great films in the same category, and we talked about this was maybe some of the performances by the actors and actresses, and at this point they're all great, but what is the one reason why you decide to go one way over another? And that's just eventually you're gonna have to make a decision on who the winner is, and I feel like when you look at Anatomy of the Fall and Society of the Snow, they're two completely different movies, but they're great in their own right. It's hard to pick a favorite out of the two. It almost feels like they need to be in their own separate categories at this point. But you see reasons there, and you just have to come up whatever the Academy has to figure out of what tops it over the other. Yeah,
absolutely.
But there you go. That's our spoiler review of Society of the Snow. Will most likely be nominated for Best International Film. If it's not, that would be a shocker.
Yeah. Really interesting to see that.
Yeah, so hopefully it is. It's been nominated at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, so there's a good chance it'll probably be nominated as well. There you go. That's our spoiler review of Society of the Snow. We'll be diving into more potential Oscar conversations. Hopefully, when we get the nominations for the best international films, more will become available. We know what we're looking for, and then we can maybe sneak in a few more before we have our most coveted Oscars predictions episode, which to me, I feel like that is, you said you look forward to the best of 2023. I also look forward to that one, but I feel more excited for our predictions episode every year.
Yeah, once we've seen everything, and then we're like, all right, let's give our informed, uninformed opinions.
Decision. Yeah, and I feel like I think I look for that the most because that's the one that we had to work for. We had to do the work. We had to find the stuff. We have to watch the stuff, and then we need to explore the individuality of the films themselves, as well as the climate that we're in on the Oscar season. There's just a lot to consider, and I like all the hard work that we put into it to give that predictions episode, and then kind of showcasing the recap that follows. It's a lot of fun to do, especially when we're not focusing on blockbusters right now. So this allows us to give us the time to properly look at all this stuff. But with that, Ernesto, tell lovely listeners what they can look forward to next week.
So next week we are going to be reviewing American Fiction, the new movie starring Jeffrey Wright. I'm interested to see about it. There's a lot of hype coming out about this movie, so I'm interested to see what's going to come of it.
Yeah, it just hit theaters, so we finally have a chance to watch it. It's from a brand new director. He's making his directorial debut with this film. And Jeffrey Wright is getting a lot of accolades and a lot of nominations for his performance. I heard a lot of great things about it. It's being highly looked at as Best Picture. Unfortunately, it hasn't been winning anything. I think the first one it actually got, as far as the more recognizable awards, was at the Critics for Best Adapted Screenplay. So maybe it has some legs there when it comes to that, but we don't know what the Writers Guild nominations are, but I think that'll even give a good tell of what writing has to offer when it comes to the Oscars. But this is more or less the last movie we need to watch to secure a lot of our Oscars watch list. That's the last big one to watch. The other one is The Zone of Interest, but that's not available just yet. But after that, we're on our way, Ernesto. We're definitely on our way.
Absolutely.
So if you want more from us, you can always follow us on all of our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, on Instagram and Threads at Box Office_Bingers, and our X at Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger. We have a lot of stuff going on a lot of different of our social media platforms. Entertainment news are all over our Instagram, Threads, and Facebook page. We have you can watch us on our YouTube page. You can also see the snippets of these episodes on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. All of our reviews are on our Letterboxd page. It's all a good time there. We also have Movie Showdown Mondays and New to Stream Fridays, and we tell you what's streaming. We'll tell you what's in the theaters. Well, we have it all for you on all the social media channels.
On all the things.
All the things. You do the work. It's there, just for you guys. We want to thank each and every one of you for just listening to us just talk about movies. Man, we're on our way past 200 already. I can't believe we're already at 202.
That's right.
It's crazy.
We're on the road to 300 now.
That's it. Exactly. Let's go to 250 first. Yeah. By the end of the year, we'll get to 250 most likely. But anyway, come back next week. We'll talk about the Oscar noms, the Emmy winners, and all the other entertainment news, as well as our review on American Fiction. Don't want to miss all that. It's going to be a great time next week. And there you go. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Ernesto Santos. See ya.